more of my clients are female than male, and I have no idea why that is, essentially. However, ideal clients, so they're people that own businesses, and they're also anybody in any industry that's got the job titles of either head of or director of. Essentially, it doesn't really what comes next. It's like they're at that level. Essentially, I've also coached a CEO as well.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regin, and today's guest is Russell Harvey. He's the resilience coach, he's a facilitator and public speaker who's dedicated to helping people build confidence, clarity, and positive transformation in their work and their lives. With over 20 years of experience in learning, leadership, and organizational development, Russell brings a strengths-based positive psychology approach to everything he does. Russell has coached thousands of individuals balancing pragmatism with creativity, support with challenge, and always focused on meaningful progress. His mission to positively impact 100,000 people by 2025, and he is well on his way. Beyond coaching, he volunteers with schools and young authors, fostering resilience and confidence in the next generation. I'm excited to dive into Russell helps leaders and teams thrive through resilience. Welcome to the show, Russell.
Thank you, Regin. Brilliant introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's always fascinating to hear those things being played back to you. You know, you write them down to go, this is who I am. And somebody says, oh, so this is Russell. And it's a mixture of like, oh, is that me? Oh, right. Okay, it is. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come today. And it's a pleasure for us always. So I wanted to talk to you about initially what got you to start your coaching business? What inspired you to become a coach and then do this as a business?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in human behavior since I can remember, since I was a child. And so I didn't know what that would become until a whole host of different factors, essentially. But I knew that I wanted to do something around learning and development and people learning. So I was traveling around the world for a year in 1996 and 1997. And 96, I was in Hong Kong doing a temporary job of teaching people off the streets, local Hong Kong Chinese, and magic was happening, essentially, which I realized was people learning light bulb moments. And so that was something new. And at the time, I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what the job title was. When I came back to the UK, we'd go to recruitment agencies and go, I think I want to be a business trainer. And they would ask, you know, what are you qualified in and what do you know? And at the time, it was like, nothing, essentially. I just know that's what I want to do. But that's where my career went, essentially. I took a sales job because it was good with people when I returned from traveling. But then I went to night school and did a certificate in training practice. And then my whole career in learning and development and organizational development went from there. And today I describe myself as a coach and a facilitator. It's who I am and what I do. And the resilience coach was born, it's 10 years old next month. That was born out of being made redundant over the course of my career 6 times. And on the 6th time, it felt ready for me to set up my own business. So that's what it came about. And I'd been specializing in this word resilience prior to the final redundancy. So that's how all the things aligned into the resilience coach 10 years ago.
And so it's been about 10 years that you started your coaching business?
Yeah, 10 years. It's 10 years old next month.
Oh, wow. That's congratulations to that.
Thank you.
And so throughout these 10 years, which part of your coaching journey do you find the most rewarding since you started the coaching business?
So there's hundreds of sort of rewarding moments with each individual client that has their light bulb moment, their realization moment. You know, very, very new. One client just turned to me one day and said, "You've changed my life, Russell." And it's like, well, that's very kind of you to say so. You did it, you did your circumstances, but it was our conversations which enabled it to happen. So that was a beautiful thing to have somebody say to you. And the other proud thing is more in the facilitation sense. So I run leadership development programs, modular programs. And for decades and decades ago, had, senior leaders sort of say to us, like, we can never really quantify whether this learning development stuff has any value to the business, essentially. And that properly frustrated me. So there's a few times in my career when I've been absolutely being able to nail and quantify that this leadership development program, which they spent money on, that actually it gave lots of finances back to a recent one that I did with a well-known bakery in the United Kingdom. We gave them an 1100% return on investment. Provable, identifiable. So, and me proud to go, you gave me this money and I did loads of stuff with your people, and now in your bank, finance director of local bakery, you've got all of this return. And they're like, oh God, wow, it works. Right, this stuff, it works. Those are real proud moments.
And when it comes to the people that you work with, is there a specific target audience, or is there a specific industry or maybe demographic that you find yourself typically working with? And the second part of this question is how transformation looks like for them.
Yeah. So there's not any particular industry. There is a particular, there are some ideal clients. And really curiously, when I looked at recently, more of my clients are female than male. And I have no idea why that is, essentially. However, ideal clients, so they're people that own businesses. And they're also anybody in any industry that's got the job titles of either head of or director of. Essentially, it doesn't really know what comes next. It's like they're at that level. Essentially, I've also coached a CEO as well in their first year in their role as a CEO. And transformation, it's an interesting word, that one, because I'm not necessarily sure that we need to go down this like big transformational route, because it's incremental. It's small and it's incremental. Now, one person did transform their lives by completely changing the job role that they were doing, an operations director in a firm, and they switched it to working in the Shetland Islands on conservation, essentially, which was a complete transformation of their lives. But how it looks for a behavior change is, prior to working with me, when you ask an individual the job title of director of or head of, how are you currently, prior to working with me, they'll do some versionation of like, well, I'm all right, or it could be better if, or you know what, my boss isn't great, or the team's not performing. So that's the language they use. And during and after they work with me, when you ask them, how are you? They literally, I'm really good. I've got clarity. I've got purpose. I understand what I'm doing. I understand what I need to do to enable my team to perform. None of the size of the scale of the challenges has changed. There's still these big problems, but how I view them, how I'm going to face into them, how I'm going to achieve them, how I think and feel about life is completely shifted into a different place. So in the resiliency world, we use these words of surviving, coping, and thriving. So the resilient individual thrives more often, which is more often they can genuinely say, I'm good, even though there's a lot going on. That's the difference that it makes.
And where do you find your clients? Like, what marketing channel is working best for you right now?
So it's difficult to pinpoint the exact thing. I appreciate, from a marketing point of view, it's like measure everything, nail down exactly, what comes from where. But I have my own podcast, and I guest on podcasts, and I get traction from that. Posting regularly on social media, and I noticed that when I go to networking events as well, there's a familiarity. The brand is out there. They go, I know you. I've seen you. I know who you are. So it's like, okay, that's working. Word of mouth. You can't get away from word of mouth. That absolutely works as well. And the absolute sort of best one is when, even in this lovely virtual world that we live in, when I am stood in front of a room of leaders doing a speech about resilience, then, they come up afterwards and go, "Can I have a word?" essentially. And so that all of those, that variety of those, they work for me, essentially.
So a mix of networking, podcast, and maybe I noticed you don't or are not really focused too much right now on LinkedIn, right?
Well, yeah, so I mean, social media. So I post almost every day on LinkedIn, essentially. With particular consistency around the reason why that I'm doing it. So yeah, so I sort of people know me from that.
Hmm.
It is really interesting. You don't know who's watching. So a few times when I've been networking, people say, "Gosh, yeah, you come up on my feed all the time." Okay, well, so be it. So yeah, LinkedIn is my main channel. Essentially, that's where my clients are.
And when it comes to the content, is there a specific strategy that you're following to get people to engage with you?
Yeah, there's a number of them. So it really is actually trying to speak to that ideal client. So those that right now, when you ask them this question about how's work, how's your job going, it's actually into those that aren't necessarily in the best of places. They might feel like they're on a hamster wheel, or they've got some version of overwhelm, or they've got less energy for the job they used to have, or they're in their careers. They might be thinking to themselves, "Is this it? It's surely there's more to work and life than this." And it's that, and obviously turning it around to go, actually, when you engage with your resilience, this is how you get it. So it's to be a resilient leader. So how to lead yourself and others really well in a full-on crazy always changing world. That's my specialism. So if anybody's like, okay, yeah, I think I need some support with this like consistently changing world, I'm your man.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, definitely, I totally agree with you that you'd have to like speak to your audience and trigger their thoughts. Even like the topics that you're going to write about are definitely going to appeal only to your target audience. So knowing your target audience is also key when it comes to marketing. And when it comes to
But it's
goals.
interesting you say that, Regin. Sorry to interrupt, because it's like, so on my website, there's like 170 blogs on there,
Mhm.
and not all of those are going to speak to my ideal client. I've literally just about to do a series on, because it's part of something that I'm reflecting upon about what on earth does this artificial intelligence human augmentation mean. I'm like, okay, we I all the time with humans, and each time I work with teams, there are for improvement around their team resilience. So if you then factor in their current state artificial intelligence, it's like the not very resilient is going to face into that in a particular way, but the team that's far more resilient is going to face into augmenting themselves with AI in a different, better way. So, this is resilient teams, resilient organizations, and resilient leaders. But I always go around everywhere and go, right, resilient humans equals resilient organizations. Discuss what I mean, and everybody starts a debate around it, essentially.
Cool. Yeah. Do you want to like expand more on that?
Well, so in my opinion, yes, they are. It's like we've fallen into the trap too much when we talk about resilient organizations to solely talk about that with how to survive, cyber attacks and how to make our processes resilient. That's a part of it, business continuity management. But then I'm always sort of saying, but actually, how being done to really understand, actually, are you creating the culture and the conditions for quality human performance in your organization? So this is why I talk about a strengths-based approach. So it's like how much of what you're doing is enabling your people to play to their strengths. So every business has got KPIs, targets, stuff, outcomes it needs to do, and it's got its humans, and I'm just not entirely sure if they mesh those together well enough. But resilient humans will equal a resilient organization, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to ask you about future goals.
Mm.
Do you have any goals that you are currently working towards for the next 1 to 3 years with your coaching business?
So you said in my introduction that so resilient people have a purpose, essentially. Just where that comes from. If anybody asks me the question about how do I build my resilience, Russell, there's a resilience wheel, loads of research, 7 aspects to it, essentially. So one of the dimensions being resilience having a purpose. So my current purpose is by the year 2025, which we are in, I want to positively affect 100,000 people. And right now I'm up to 84,012 ish, essentially, in all the things that I do. So I need to complete that purpose, essentially, by the in the next few months, essentially, and then it is really reflecting on what's worked in the business over the last 10 years, what's really floated my boat, what's really inspired me, and actually that'll inform the next goals, the next targets. It really is the fact that there's one of me. So it is far more around actually how do I enable all of the things I do to be done more scalable. That's something that I'm thinking about as well. So all of those will inform the next target. So the short answer to your question right now is that I don't have a specific one. I'll need a new purpose. Once I've completed this purpose, I'll need a new one, essentially.
It is a good purpose, like a big purpose. So when you say impacting 100,000 lives, are these people that you have impacted or that you're thinking of impacting through directly, or is there some sort of even through your content, maybe through the that you coach, and then you coach them, the impact also ripples effect to the other people that they work with or their families? How does this expand?
Yeah, so this is it. So, I have sort of research on actually how's the numbers going. So, but it's a Reg, and it really is. It's so people listening to this, of the podcast that I guest on, and my intention is to share something that is useful and worthwhile around resilience. And then somebody, people message you and go, yeah, add me to the list. Yeah, you've learned. And then, yeah, it was really brilliant the first time that somebody said to when I was running a program and said this is my purpose. Somebody said, well, by the way, you just that you're going to get there quicker and faster because you've positively impacted me, Russell, and I'm going to go away from here and I'm going to lead my people differently, better, and I'll have impacted them. So there's this ripple effect, essentially. So it's a bit of direct and then ripple effect, essentially.
Absolutely. And what would you say have been some good investments that you made in your coaching business that you feel like actually have gotten a good positive return on it from? So has there been any coaching programs, masterminds, communities, or maybe investments in yourself that you feel like you've gotten a lot of value from?
Yeah. So I've done a lot of investment in myself over the years, and then during the business, actually when I became qualified in the psychometric strength scope. So because I take a strengths-based approach, so I talk about strengths so much because they build natural resilience and natural confidence, essentially. So that is just provided so much payback by being qualified in that. In terms of investment in the business, probably one of the best investments is when there's a gentleman called Paul who did my branding. So that branding. So that was it was many years ago, but actually creating my brand and color schemes and really thinking about the avatars of who the ideal clients are and doing all of that things for me and was really helpful and useful in realizing it wasn't just a website. I invest in marketing wise as well. There's a marketing company that I use that support me with all my social media, and that they're giving me traction as well. So those are useful things. I've also investigated all sorts of people that can say I can make you rich and we can grow your business, but not never is like a silver bullet around that one, shall I say.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for sharing all of that. And what is a challenge right now? Moving on to challenges, what is a challenge right now that you're trying to solve for in your coaching business?
So it's linking to the artificial intelligence piece. So I wouldn't necessarily see it as a challenge. It's just more about how am I going to include it. So I was on a webinar myself this morning. So my business is a member of something called the Oxford Review, who are fabulous at doing research around all things learning and development and more. And the webinar this morning was on what's the difference between human thinking and artificial intelligence thinking. And short version of this amazing webinar is a lot. Okay. And we fall into the risk of people using, AI coaches, things, a thing to talk to. And so, yeah, there'll be value and benefits in it. It's about, so alongside a client talking to me on a human to human level, they could also talk to their AI coach in between our conversations. But at the same time, it's like, because our brains that artificial intelligence is artificial, we're going to have to make sure that we have some real quality conversations about how people are talking to a robot, under the misconception that it is human, essentially. And so that's just that I'm considering talking about the coaches about how we'll augment, AI into a human business, because coaching is literally about human development.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, AI, if seen an assistant, could do a lot for you, especially if you get to train it to your knowledge, to your experience, and maybe try to have it solve some of the problems you would have naturally uh, have to do on a one-on-one call, but like not the big problems, maybe a smaller set of problems that you can train the AI to do for you.
Yes, and that's the interesting stuff. And it's about, actually, it's such a massive gap between how AI learns, in inverted commas, and how humans learn. So yeah, and then it's about, actually, how come you're investing all of this time in trying to train something to do something it can't do? So there's an awful lot to explore around that. There's validity, absolutely, in AI, but we need to get much better at understanding what it genuinely can't do and what it genuinely can do. And I think that's a challenge for the human race, essentially.
Totally agree. And this has been great so far, but I wanted to ask, the final question is, what advice would you like to give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact? So we did talk about impact with a specific number when we talked about you trying to impact 100,000 people. Now, what advice would you give to other people who are trying to do the same, or maybe make an even bigger impact?
Yeah. So they absolutely need to nail what bigger impact means to them. They absolutely need to understand that, because if bigger impact is purely financial, okay, cool, great, yeah, loads more money in the bank, grand. But actually, what value are you adding? What impact are you actually having? So they need, I'll repeat it, of like, what does, a bigger, larger impact mean? So without being arrogant, the positively impact, 100,000 people is, it's imagine, this is nothing to do with my ego, I promise. Somebody else said to me a few years ago, right, so imagine that you're in a big football stadium, Russell, and the 100,000 people are in there and you're there. This is you looking me in the eye and them going, yeah, something has improved in me as a consequence of knowing you or interacting with you. And you go, yeah, that's what it's about. Absolutely, that's what it's about. So absolutely nail that, what it means by bigger impact. And then you've absolutely got to have total clarity on the things that you're going to do to make it happen, essentially, and the help you need, the support network that you need around this. One of the dimensions of being resilient is cultivating our best support network. And an interesting piece of research says that around our support network, that we become behaviorally the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Okay, so this isn't about finding 5. It's just a case of, all right, who is 5 people I spend the most time with, and are they being most useful and valuable to me right now? So those are the pieces of advice I'd give now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Russell. And for anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can go into your LinkedIn and find you at Russell Harvey, or they can go into the website, the Resilience Coach. and they will be able to find more details in your website. Is there any other way people could reach out to you or connect with you?
No, so the website and LinkedIn, that's the easiest, essentially. Everything's on the website and everything's on LinkedIn, so that's the easiest way to do it.
Thank you so much for coming today, Russell. This was great.
Thank you, Regin. I appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.